17-year-old, who's a former head girl and the daughter of an officer of the West Mercia Force, was last seen at 7:30 on Sunday evening, leaving her family home here in Wellington. Her parents thought she was going to spend the night with friends.
I'd like to speak directly to Georgia if I can. Georgia, if you're listening to us at this moment in time, you're not in trouble. Please contact the police or your parents. We're extremely concerned. We want to make sure you're safe and well.
Wellington is a market town in Shropshire, in the West Midlands of England. It sits quietly between farmland and industry, the kind of town where teenagers grow up together. 17-year-old Georgia Williams grew up here. Her father, Steve, was a detective constable serving in West Mercia Police's Major Investigation Unit, the division that handled the force's most serious crimes. Her mother was Lynette. She had a younger sister, Scarlett. They were, by all accounts, a close and grounded family. Georgia had already built a record that most people take years to achieve. At Ercole Wood Technology College, she served as head girl. She was a student counsellor and a peer mentor, working specifically with pupils who had experienced bullying. Her teachers described her as fair-minded and dependable. Outside school, she was a cadet with the Air Training Corps. She had a plan. She wanted to join the Royal Air Force. She had a wide circle of friends across Wellington. They had grown up together. She trusted them. One of them lived a short walk from her family home. The boy from the neighbourhood. He was 23 years old. He worked in a local shop. He lived with his parents on Avondale Road, Wellington, close enough that their social circles had always overlapped. He and Georgia had known each other for years as part of the same broad group of friends. At some point, his feelings toward Georgia became something other than friendship. He told her. He sent her text messages asking her on dates, expressing his interest in her. Georgia was honest with him. She was not interested in him that way. She told him she did not want to damage their friendship. He told her he understood. He accepted her answer. Their friendship, as far as Georgia could see, continued as it always had. Then, sometime in early 2013, he mentioned that he was interested in photography. He told Georgia he wanted to pursue it as a career. He was enthusiastic about it. Georgia encouraged him. She told him she'd help him if she could. He said he'd love that. He said he had an idea for a shoot. 5 years before Georgia Williams walked to his house, West Mercia Police had a file on him. In January 2008, he was 17 years old. He lured a 16-year-old girl to his parents' home on Avondale Road under a false pretense. He told her he was working on a media project based on a book and that he wanted to take photographs to illustrate it. When she arrived, he attacked her. He grabbed her by the throat and attempted to strangle her. She fought him off. She escaped. She had visible red marks and swelling on her neck. Police were called. Officers found in his bedroom photographs of unknown women being strangled and suffocated. They also found 2 images of the girl he had just attacked. Photographs he had digitally altered to show a noose around her neck. He had made those images before the attack. He claimed he could not remember much about that day. He said he no longer wanted to access violent material. He said the thoughts had passed. Police gave him a final warning. No charges were filed. He was referred to the West Mercia Youth Offending Service, to Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, and to the NSPCC. Mental health workers documented their assessment of him. They described him as a significant risk to others. They noted that he had progressed from viewing violent imagery to physically harming a person. His file was closed in 2010. In January 2013, he sat down and began writing. The document he produced was not a photography brief. It was a scripted, detailed account of how he intended to lure Georgia Williams to his home and kill her. He named her in the title. He spent 5 months writing and refining it. He finished it approximately 3 weeks before 26th May 2013. Georgia was not the only name in his files. He had written more than 40 similar stories over the years. The victims were almost always real young women he knew personally, named by him. He had also taken images from their social media profiles and digitally altered them, adding ropes around their necks, adding restraints, writing captions on some. On one altered image of a woman he knew, he had written, "No, please don't hang me. Too late. You hang until dead." His hard drive contained more than 16,800 images and 72 videos of extreme pornography. The material had a consistent theme throughout: the strangulation and hanging of women. He began making preparations. He pre-purchased the clothing she would wear. He bought the rope. He obtained handcuffs. He constructed a hanging mechanism in the loft aperture of his parents' home. A noose slung over an oar placed across the opening, tied at one end to the banisters. The box she would stand on was already in position. His parents were planning a week in Italy. His sister would be at her boyfriend's. For 1 week, the house at Avondale Road would be empty except for him. He also made contact with at least 2 other young women that week, inviting them to come to the house for a similar photo shoot on the days following. They were contingency plans, alternatives, in case Georgia, for any reason, did not come. Georgia was at the top of the list. He used those exact words in his notes. That Sunday morning was ordinary in the Williams household. Steve was at home, Lynette was there, Georgia was getting ready. He had contacted her about the photo shoot. The concept, he told her, involved a simulated hanging, a staged photograph, he said, for a creative project. He made it sound casual, harmless, something interesting for a portfolio. Georgia told her family she was going to help a friend with a photo shoot. Her parents saw her off. She walked to Avondale Road. When she arrived, he had his stepfather's camera ready. He photographed her. He guided her up to the landing where the loft aperture was. He showed her the setup, the rope, the noose, the box. He told her it was for the photo. He persuaded her to put on the clothes he had chosen for her. He persuaded her to stand on the box. He placed the noose around her neck. He fastened the handcuffs. She was entirely at his mercy. She was smiling in the photograph he took at that moment. The court would later describe the image as almost unbearable to look at. A young woman completely trusting, with no knowledge of what was about to happen. He pulled the noose tight. After killing Georgia, he raped her dead body and even photographed her. In the period following Georgia's death, lasting, according to court records, close to an hour, he remained in the house. He took photographs throughout. He sexually violated her body. He moved her through the rooms of the house. He took further photographs. The sentencing judge's remarks documented this in full, drawn from photographic evidence recovered by police. He had obtained Georgia's mobile phone password in advance. That evening, Georgia's mother, Lynette, sent a message to her daughter's phone. She wanted to know when Georgia was coming home. He also sent a message from Georgia's phone to her sister Scarlett, expressing concern about Georgia's whereabouts, offering to help find her. That same evening, he messaged the 2 other young women he had lined up that week. He cancelled their visits. The following morning, Monday, 27th of May, his sister came to the house on a pre-arranged visit. He behaved entirely normally in her presence. After she left, he deleted the photographs from his stepfather's camera and transferred them to an external hard drive, which he packed and kept with him. He gathered Georgia's jewellery and kept it. He loaded Georgia's body and her clothing into the back of his stepfather's white Toyota Hiace van. He packed camping equipment as a cover, to explain, if asked, why he was travelling alone for several days. He caught up in camera, filling up his BAM with fuel, and Georgia's body was in the back of the van. He drove north out of Wellington. By Tuesday morning, the texts had stopped. Georgia had not come home. She had not called. Lynette Williams had not been able to reach her. She and Steve contacted the police. Officers began retracing her last known movements. They spoke to her friends. They spoke to her contacts. The trail led to Avondale Road, to the house of the young man she had gone to help with a photo shoot on Sunday afternoon. They needed to find him. There was one additional detail from the Nanty Garth Pass footage. Near the remote woodland area where Reynolds had stopped, his van had become stuck in mud. A passing driver had helped pull it free and, in doing so, had taken a photograph of the scene. A photograph that would later place Reynolds and his vehicle at the exact location where Georgia's body was found. Reynolds did not know the photograph existed.
Police say they urgently need information about a vehicle driven by the suspect.
I'd like to concentrate the public's mind, please, on a vehicle, which is the vehicle I have to my left here. It's the Hiace van CX06 ASV. The last time we identified that vehicle was at 5 o'clock in Wrexham in North Wales. Following that, we identified the vehicle at 10:30 p.m. that evening, so a gap of about 5.5 hours in Queensferry, Cheshire, heading north. And we're obviously very keen from the public, or from anyone who has information, to identify where that vehicle may have been in that 5.5 hour gap.
As investigators pulled CCTV footage from service stations, town centres and road cameras across England and Wales, a picture emerged of a route taken on 27th and 28th May. After freeing the van, he drove to the Odeon in Wrexham and watched Fast and Furious 6. He continued to Carnforth. He drove to Glasgow. He checked into the Premier Inn, bought a watch, and spent the night. He told police later that he had gone north with the intention of killing himself. In all the footage across 2 days, he appeared entirely calm. On 29th May 2013, officers in Scotland located Reynolds at the Premier Inn in Glasgow. He was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping. West Mercia police and Scottish officers simultaneously searched 2 addresses in Glasgow and Reynolds' parents' home at Avondale Road, Wellington. At the Wellington address, they found the loft aperture. They found the rope. They found the oar that had been placed across the opening. They found the box. From Reynolds, they recovered the external hard drive he had been carrying since Monday morning. What was on that drive took the investigation from a missing person inquiry to something that required its own category. In interview, Reynolds told a series of lies. He claimed not to remember the day Georgia came to the house. When detectives told him they had recovered photographs from the hard drive, images showing Georgia alive at the scene and then dead, he said he had no memory of any of it. When police told him they had found the photograph of his van stuck in mud near Ruthin and that they were closing in on the location of Georgia's body, Reynolds said he was starting to have flashes of memory returning. He described, partially and carefully, dragging Georgia into the woods. He was charged with murder on 31st May 2013. He appeared at Telford Magistrates Court on 1st June. He appeared at Stafford Crown Court on 4th June. He entered a plea of not guilty. He maintained that plea for 6 months. Georgia's family were told to prepare themselves for a full trial. They spent those months knowing every detail of what was coming. 5 days before the trial was due to begin, Reynolds changed his plea to guilty. He expressed no remorse at any point. The judge recorded this. The sentencing judge noted that the final text sent to Georgia's mother from her phone contained what he described as a veiled reference to what the sender knew had happened. He stated that the messages were not only an attempt to delay a missing person report, they were, in the judge's words, a form of playing games with the family. 2 forensic psychiatric reports were placed before the court. Professor Peckett concluded that Reynolds did not suffer from a recognized mental disorder. He was not psychotic. He had not suffered a breakdown. The only explanation that withstood examination, the professor wrote, was that Reynolds had wanted to kill a woman and violate her body in death to fulfill a long-standing fantasy. He stated that Reynolds was intelligent, plausible, and capable of adapting his methods. He stated that Reynolds had the potential to become a serial killer. He stated that Reynolds would pose a grave and ongoing risk to women for the rest of his life. Mr. Justice Wilkie addressed Reynolds directly before passing sentence. You watched her die in circumstances where you could have saved her, and doing so was a central part of your pleasure. Reynolds was 23 years old at sentencing, one of the youngest people in the history of England and Wales to receive a whole life order. He was the 46th person ever to receive the sentence. A whole life order carries no minimum term. It is served until death. His subsequent appeal against the sentence was refused by the Court of Appeal. Misconduct proceedings were brought against 4 officers and 1 member of police staff. Steve and Lynette Williams pursued a claim under the Human Rights Act. In 2016, West Mercia Police settled the claim out of court. In doing so, the force formally admitted it had breached its obligation under Article 2 of the European Convention on Human Rights, its duty to protect Georgia's life. Chief Constable David Shaw stated publicly, "We could have and should have done better. We let Georgia down. Georgia's jewellery, taken by Reynolds after the murder and kept, was never recovered. Her clothing was never recovered. Reynolds remains in custody at HM Prison Wakefield, a Category A facility. He will not be released."